me just pick up that pre-planning point. As David, I'm just going to turn to you, but as Jim mentioned, the survey that we ran with Control Risks and The Economist absolutely pointed to the fact that well-informed people anticipate that this will happen to them. Now, no organization wants to kind of anticipate and wish this upon themselves, but in your experience, how prepared are people? When we talk about investigations, we kind of immediately think of being caught up in a sudden and dramatic crisis, but I guess prudent people ought to be prepared without wanting to bring it upon themselves. They should be prepared for that it might happen. Is that the case in reality?
Well, that's really sort of two different questions. What's the current status of the average multinational large corporation, or even, the reality is even medium corporations now are global, and then what should they do to be prepared? I think that in a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis, I think a lot of companies have become much more prepared. They've undertaken litigation preparedness, they've invested in architecture, IT architecture, compliance architecture, legal groups in order to do investigations on a jurisdictional basis. And that, that's an investment that's paid off for them. What we haven't seen, even the most sophisticated companies are just getting involved in preparing for the cross-border investigation. And the reality is, if you're going to have a compliance program and you're going to put in controls, then you have to realize you're going to pick up noise that's going to make you think that there's a problem. Now, there may not be a problem, but you need to run it to ground. So the idea of, not doing the investigation if you're going to have the program is not going to work for you. You're going to have investigations. Maybe they're going to be small, maybe they don't lead anywhere, but the more likely than not, you're going to find that there are rogue actors somewhere in your organization. The bigger you get, the harder it is to have consistency across the board. So what do you need to be prepared, right? So, and I'm lucky in this regard. I get to work with very sophisticated companies who are really focused on this issue right now. And I'm blessed because I get to work in a global law firm with subject matter experts on all different issues in all types of jurisdictions. Right. So the first thing I think I would tell a company is, what is your team going to be? Both internally and externally, you want to have a team because, as I think Jim pointed out, this is a jurisdictional focused issue. I need to have the right people in the right location who can tell me about the China state secrecy law, or the data protection law in Germany, or the banking law in Switzerland, or the emerging data protection laws in Africa or Latin America or Russia or Southeast Asia. And then I just say, okay, so I'm going to have my team, which I'm able to move forward quickly when whatever crisis occurs, but do I have the right infrastructure in place to be compliant in the ordinary course and then in the investigation? So what does that mean? So many of the laws that we're talking about have particular procedural hurdles for either the processing of data or the transfer of data, both of which are going to be implemented in any investigation, right? Because you can't just hold the data. You need to look at it, discern the meaning from it, search it, apply the right technology tools, whether it's search terms and calibration, or technology-assisted review, or ECA, or early data assessment. But can you actually do that without trampling on the rights of the various stakeholders, whether it's the Workers' Council, or the data subjects, or the government state secrecy laws? You probably have an infrastructure somewhere. If you're a company, so you might have good resources in the UK or the United States or Australia, but the events occurred in Indonesia or Australia. Can I move the data, which would be cheaper for me than building from scratch in whatever location? Well, have I got the right intercompany agreements? Have I made the right disclosures to the data protection agencies where I now am? Now, getting this plan in place, like any program, you have to be risk-based. You can't spend money equally across all jurisdictions. We're trying to do more with less. So we have to be reasonable and we have to be efficient about it, right? But in those jurisdictions where you're doing a lot of work, or there's a lot of risk, or there's a lot of regulatory scrutiny, that's where you want to make certain that you have the right agreements in place, that you've talked to your workers' council or your unions, that they have the right agreement in place, you've made the right disclosures. I mean, and I'm blessed because I get to work with these great experts in all these jurisdictions. We have found over and over again that even those sophisticated companies who have really worked hard, right? They've gotten data protection officers in place, they have record managers in place, they have legal and compliance, their agreements are about the ordinary course. They're compliant because they want to move data to make money, right? But they're not thinking outside that box that if I'm going to do the investigation, I'm going to have to do something out of the ordinary course. And have I given the right notice to my workers that I'm going to do this, that I'm going to have to do surveillance? Have I given the right notice to the Data Protection Agency that I would like to transfer the data from Europe to the US or from Canada to Australia? Because if I'm going to do that, and I know that's my plan, but I haven't told anyone when we need to hit the ground running, because usually these are speedy events. The one thing that I think in-house counsel hate the most is when they're told they can't move forward. They can't look at the information because we got to dot our I's and cross our T's.
Right.
The time to do that is now.
Right.
And you can do it now.
Exactly. So it's not something you can start doing when the sky's falling in. This is absolutely an area that requires pre-preparation and thought.